Beginning our journey at the 10th point, imagine being in a bustling town square. It's a busy day with merchants shouting out their wares and children playing around. Suddenly, amidst all the hustle and bustle, there's a commotion near the town's fountain. What caught everyone's attention? That's where the story of the Shrews Fiddle comes into play. Envision this scenario. Two women are bound together, hands intertwined, forced to look directly at each other. The reason? Perhaps they spread rumors or were involved in a public spat. This bizarre tool originates from the medieval era, notably found in regions like Germany and Austria. It was crafted with 3 distinct openings, 2 accommodating the hands and 1 for the neck. Occasionally, there'd be a bell attached to this Shrews Fiddle, alerting the townspeople that someone bound by it was passing by, opening the door for potential whispers or the occasional tossed fruit. Taking it a step further was the notorious double fiddle. The ultimate challenge? The individuals wouldn't be separated until they buried the hatchet. This might remind you of some modern families using a bonding shirt to squash quarrels between siblings, which they can't remove until they make peace. However, the double fiddle was a much more extreme and antiquated method, neither soft nor lighthearted.
All right, diving into number 9 on our list. Let's touch on a subject that's a bit delicate. The monthly visitor, nature's alarm, or our lunar cycle, whatever you want to call it. It's a challenging time for many. Today might seem tough, but centuries ago, things were considerably more difficult. The comforts and conveniences we're accustomed to, they were unheard of in medieval times. Necessity drove people to improvise and find solutions with what they had. Modern sanitary products, not in the picture. So, medieval folks had to think out of the box. Using scraps of cloth or linen was a common approach to make makeshift pads. And considering underwear wasn't a widespread concept then, they had to be innovative in securing them in place. Some individuals even crafted an early version of a tampon by wrapping soft cloth around a small stick. As you might imagine, this doesn't sound too pleasant. Interestingly, many sought out a specific type of moss known for its high absorbency. Owing to its applications, it was often called blood moss, used not only for personal care but also for treating injuries. As for those who didn't have access to or couldn't craft such products, they often wore red attire during their cycle. It was a way to mask and normalize, turning a natural process into a style statement. Lunar cycles, but with a medieval twist.
Number 7. The Stretch-O-Matic, not too fiery or quick, but indeed gradual and tedious. The Stretch-O-Matic is oddly popular. It was unveiled in Playtown around 1420. The apparatus resembled a basic flat board where your feet would be strapped at the bottom and arms up top. Already, it sounds quite uncomfortable. Positioned both horizontally or sometimes tilted, neither option was a walk in the park. Victims were left dangling by these cords, which were then progressively pulled tighter, causing obvious distress to muscles and joints that were supposed to stay connected. The aim was to get confessions or secrets. Honestly, it sounds dreadful. Even a slight pull feels unbearable. It's hard to fathom the real deal. Lightening the mood with humor helps, but it's still intense. If you're feeling the chills, hit that thumbs up to share the positivity because the story is far from over.
Alright folks, on to number 6 on our list of historical punishments, Molten Metal. Brace yourselves, this one is intense. Ever been a fan of epic shows like Game of Thrones or other historical dramas? Then you might recognize the haunting imagery of this brutal method. But remember, truth can be stranger and more horrifying than fiction. Imagine this, a cauldron bubbling and simmering for hours on end, until the solid chunks of metal transform into a seething fiery liquid, a true molten nightmare. Now, we promise to deliver spine-chilling content, and trust us, this one's right up there on the eerie scale. The condemned would be restrained, and then, in a display of unthinkable cruelty, this red-hot metallic liquid would either be poured over their heads or, even more gruesomely, forced down their throats. And no, this wasn't a torture method designed to get them to spill the beans on some secret. It was a fatal endgame, because, let's be real, there's no coming back from that.
Let's delve into number 5 on our list. Early matrimony. People today tie the knot at various ages. I've pals from my school days who've walked down the aisle, and some who took their sweet time. However, back in the medieval period, things were a tad different. Can you imagine, at the tender age of 12, girls were considered mature enough for marriage. Typically, their families would decide their life partner. Doesn't that seem a bit unjust? A child who hasn't even started exploring life, understanding her mistakes and learning from them, is suddenly thrust into the role of a wife and potentially a mother. As a 22-year-old myself, I'm miles away from such thoughts, but I can't fathom the immense pressure on those young souls back in the day. Even more troubling than the early age of these unions was the way wives were treated by their spouses. Medieval laws allowed husbands to, let's say, discipline their wives, in a measured manner, of course. If you're curious about the top 4 historical punishments, make sure to tune into the second part of this video. And if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.